So a few days ago, the trailer dropped for the next entry in the Predator series, Predator Badlands, and there was some controversy. And by controversy, I mean everybody hated it. And this is why. Also this, and a little of this, but it was definitely mainly this. And in this segment that you're about to see from our weekly podcast, Jay and I discuss the controversy, and we kind of come down on maybe the minority side, and we actually kind of liked it. So take a listen, let us know what you think in the comments, drop us a like, and we will see you there. We also recently got a trailer for a new Predator movie, and I am a fan of Predator. Now, I think that this is going to be where we kind of separate from the Predator series. Is like I loved the original Predator and Predator 2. I enjoyed those, and it was something that I wanted to see kind of move on. Obviously, they were before my time. I watched them as a an adult later, and they were already kind of dated. But I loved the concept. I loved the Predator. I thought the Predator was so cool, and then we've had different iterations of those movies where they've tried to revive it. They've had one where it's called Predators, and then, I don't know, they've kind of done a whole list of things. There was one with Adrian Brody where they did a couple, and there was a different planet and all this stuff. But then recently, within the last couple of years, was it that Prey came out? They had Dan Trachtenberg, who was an OG podcast nerd and made it big. He's a fantastic filmmaker, and he made Prey, which was a play off of Predator, obviously. And
which was good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. And so it was we'll call it a prequel, even though it didn't really necessarily have anything to do with the original Predators, but it was just so far earlier than those. So we had a Predator that was pursuing a Native American girl way back in the day. And she,
and it felt like the Predator was really, and I'm going to preface this by saying I am a absolutely gigantic Predator and Alien. Just the sheer amount of boxed collectibles I have right now are ridiculous, but on Predator. And there hasn't been one Predator movie I didn't like. And that includes the one with Adrian Brody that everybody else hated. I love the idea.
I liked it.
I love the idea of the Predator race saying, let's quit traveling there. Let's bring them to one of our world. Let's find a warrior and a couple criminals. And,
I thought it was great.
People.
I love the idea. And I was bummed that it didn't kind of like pick up. But then Prey, with Prey, we finally got some momentum. We finally got some momentum to move forward. I thought that one was great. We got to see, I can't remember the actress's name, but she did a phenomenal job. And then we got to see a Predator kind of use some new toys and really kind of breathe some new life into it. And so Dan Trachtenberg is doing this new one called Predator Badlands. And this is one thing that I've wanted for a long time. And that is, and this might rub some purists the wrong way, but I wanted to see Predator as the good guy, or at least the anti-hero. I wanted to see the world from the Predator's eyes, as you with you behind him, with you rooting for the Predator. And so that's what we have in Predator Badlands. But I did just want to point out this horrifically worded headline that greeted me whenever I was scrolling through some of the entertainment news. And the thing with this Predator, I don't know if it's confirmed. Yeah.
Come on.
I'll read this. I'll read this for those of you viewing or listening instead of viewing momentarily. But so I don't know if this is the Predator is basically an adolescent Predator. Now, what that means in Predator years, I don't know. Right? You could be like Baby Yoda is supposed to be like 50 years old in Star Wars. I don't know if they age like that, but it's supposed to essentially be like an adolescent Predator. So this headline says Disney introduces child Predator in Predator Badlands. So seems like somebody really should have sat down and did a proofread on that. This is why you proofread, and you don't just proofread your own work. You also have somebody else proofread it for you. But I am, however, intrigued by the idea. I'm excited to have a Predator protagonist. And from the trailers, even though we haven't really been able to glean exactly what it's about, it looks like he is being pursued perhaps by other predators or other inhabitants. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't believe.
Well, the Yautja have many clans on that planet.
Which is something that the Adrian Brody movie hinted at, and we never got a chance to really get. But the books make it very clear.
And much like Klingons in Star Trek, they can never unify. They have the same traditions and they have the same rites of passage, but they pretty much stay singular or insular would be a better word. They stay pretty insular as far as their clans go on when they do what.
And one thing that I've seen a lot of purists kind of get upset about with this new movie that's releasing, and I think it's cool. I'm a fan of this because, like I said, with Prey, Dan Trachtenberg, I think Dan Trachtenberg is a phenomenal writer, filmmaker. I think he's brilliant. He's a nerd. He's one of us, right? He's not just some
Right.
dude that's looking for a job. He loves this shit, and he had took a really fresh twist and a take on Prey, and we got to see Predators we got some new weapons. We got to see them in a little bit of a different light. We got a little bit of a different look at them. And I really enjoyed that. And so this Predator, we have the kind of iconic locks, these what look like dreadlocks on the Predators. Now, typically they would have kind of essentially a skullet, right? We have like this
Yeah.
big shovel looking piece on the front of the dome, and then we would have these dreads kind of circling it. Whereas here we have much more of a sort of like a modern hairdo that a human would have, where the dreads, as they were, are sort of up top and gathered and sort of pulled back in a ponytail, with the sides of the head being bare. And this has upset a good many people that I have seen, and I like it. And also,
So
oh, go ahead.
I'm a purist, you know, to an extreme when it comes to Predator, but this doesn't offend me in any way, shape, or form. And I don't have any problem believing that an adolescent or post-pubescent Predator would have a different setup until he can, like, I notice he doesn't have any of these little spikes that come out around the eyelids and around the side of the face on an elderly or a mature Predator. But maybe those just haven't grown out yet,
Right,
right?
exactly.
So I
There's
don't have
room for
any
that.
problem with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Even if you remember Alien versus Predator, which was also the first one was such a great movie where they went to the underground pyramid.
very cool
Um,
concept.
and these were adolescent predators. They didn't have they had to go there to earn their shoulder mounted cannon thing, which the humans, of course, stole. And they had to try to improvise their way through that thing. And that was a wonderfully told story, I felt like, to be able to bring in the xenomorphs too as a plot device instead of being just a character. So anyway, I don't have a problem with this.
Well, I don't either. I think it's cool. I think it's good to have a good visual spin. And one of the things that I really think that this does, which is a thing that we kind of touched on whenever I guessed on your fuel pod earlier this week, whenever we talked about sort of how I'm a newcomer to F1 and kind of getting into it and seeing Drive to Survive and coming into it that way. Whenever I look at the cars, all the cars look the same because I don't get I don't look at them all the time. They all look the same to me, and I'm just now learning the differences. Whereas you can look at one and you can see, oh, that's this, and you can see all the differences in the shape or whatever. So much like that, I think this is really important because especially if we're going to be having multiple predators, you need to have something that is very visually distinctive. This is somebody's first Predator movie, they need to be able to very quickly tell who is who whenever these all obviously there's going to be differences, but they look so radically different from what we are
Yeah.
used to seeing in our everyday
Well,
life. They're all going to look the same. Like whenever you look at a field and all the sheep look the same, or all the cows look the same, all the predators are going to look the same unless you do something visually striking. So for him, it's his dreads at the top, kind of pulled back. We also see another predator in the trailer that has all white locks, which make him very visually distinctive. So I think it's needed as a shortcut to let audiences be able to tell which predator
you,
character is which.
and I talked about the clans earlier, and human beings aren't all the same from region to region, and there are exceptions to everything. But like, here's another predator from that movie, and you look at the head plate, how the head plate is wide, and there's the little spikes I was talking about on the head and around the eyes right there. And he's got his little
I think this
adornments
is
on his
actually somebody
dreads.
trying to correct, or as they see it, correct
Oh,
the
correcting
character
it.
we just looked at. They had predator
But
redesign, but that
but
is the
still, this
design that
is
we're used to
more
seeing.
right. And who's to say that the kid that you have on there is not going to grow into that? You can see
Exactly.
the beginnings of his head plate forming on the sides of his head. Maybe eventually his forehead will recess into that plate. We don't know, nor do I care. I just want Trachtenberg to tell his story.
Yeah. So overall, I'm excited. I know there's also an animated anthology coming out. Like it appears to be an anthology movie where it's going to tell like three different stories across time. one in the Viking era, one in a couple of other eras. I believe one was feudal Japan, and it was called something like Predator, Killer of Killers, or something along those lines. So
Right.
I'm excited for that one too. I believe that one's going to debut on Hulu. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I just want to thank all of the listeners, supporters out there. We're growing. We're just getting our footing, and it truly does mean the world to us to have your support. We really do get so excited and recognize each and every one of you every time we get a view or any sort of interactions. Your clicks, your watching the videos, the likes, the comments, all that stuff. It helps us grow. It helps us know you. It helps YouTube know who else to show us to. So please drop a like,
Absolutely.
give us a subscribe, turn on notifications so you'll know every time that we're on Thursdays, 8, 7 Central. And we're going to continue to make content.